Welcome to Revisit Books podcast, where we turn books into bite-sized wisdom you can use every day. We are opening the pages today on a system that has been called, well, maybe the single most influential personal development methodology of the last decade.
Yeah, it's a big claim, but it holds water for a lot of people.
It's presented as a complete overhaul of how we approach our days, our potential, and ultimately our success. We're talking about Hal Elrod's global phenomenon, the miracle morning.
And it's really more than just a book about waking up early, which I think is what many people initially assume.
Right.
It's framed as a revolutionary blueprint for personal transformation. And the core claim is pretty audacious, honestly.
Which is?
That you can achieve immediate and profound changes in pretty much any area of your life. Finance, health, emotions, you name it. All by putting in place a daily practice that happens before, get this, 8 a.m.
Before 8 a.m. And the endorsements, well, they aren't exactly shy, are they?
Not at all.
Yeah.
You've got NY Times bestselling authors, influential figures comparing its impact to really paradigm-shifting works.
Like the 4-hour work week. I saw that comparison.
Exactly. They claim it changes the fundamental way you live your life, and maybe faster than you'd think possible.
Now, what really gives this whole concept, I think, immense weight is Hal Elrod's backstory.
Absolutely.
He isn't teaching this from some ivory tower or, a position of inherited privilege.
No, he's teaching it from the perspective of someone who hit not one, but two catastrophic rock bottoms. And he explicitly states he used this very methodology to climb back out.
Okay, let's touch on those. The first one was incredibly traumatic, a physical event.
Yeah, back in 1999, he was just 20 years old, hit head-on by a drunk driver.
It was horrific. The collision was so severe he was actually clinically dead for 6 minutes.
6 minutes. And the injuries. 11 fractured bones, permanent brain damage they initially suspected, and doctors even warned he might never walk again.
Just overcoming that is monumental, a massive physical and mental struggle just to regain, some semblance of normalcy.
You'd think that surviving that would be enough adversity for one lifetime, right?
You would.
But often, maybe even more often, the mental and emotional rock bottom can feel even more crippling.
And that happened for him in 2008.
Right, smack in the middle of the financial crisis, the recession. He found himself $425,000 in debt.
Wow.
Seriously behind on his mortgage payments and suffering from what he describes as severe, paralyzing depression.
And I think that second crisis is maybe even more relatable for a lot of people listening. That feeling of just being crushed by circumstance, even when you feel like you're working hard.
Totally. And it was exactly that desperation, that feeling of needing something, anything, that worked when everything else had failed. That's what led him to seek out a really rigorous daily personal development routine.
And that search ultimately birthed the entire structure we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, it established the credibility. It showed that the system works when your back is truly, truly against the wall. #tag1 overview.
Okay, so let's start with the mission statement here. If someone picks up the Miracle Morning, what's the big picture goal Hal Elrod is trying to help them achieve?
Well, fundamentally, the mission is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's about helping you move beyond what he calls the societal norm of mediocrity.
Okay.
And instead, start realizing your potential, which he argues is virtually unlimited. The path isn't meant to be overly complicated. It requires dedicating structured, protected time each day, specifically to personal growth.
And the transformation isn't necessarily reliant on, complex business strategies or finding some massive overnight financial windfall.
No, not at all.
The catalyst seems remarkably simple. Shifting how you wake up and what you actually do in that first hour or so.
Precisely. That's the core argument of the book, and it's kind of like geometric progression. Focused, productive, successful mornings don't just happen in isolation, right? They create focused, productive, successful days.
Makes sense.
And if you stack enough of those days together, they inevitably create a focused, productive, successful life. It's like the ultimate compound interest formula, but applied to personal fulfillment.
Now, this whole philosophy, as he details it, really stemmed from a pivotal moment when he was deep in that financial despair we mentioned.
Right. A friend, somewhat reluctantly, just advised him to go for a run, just to clear his head.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
And while he was running, listening to an audio program, he heard a quote from the legendary Jim Rohn that basically became the linchpin for the entire book.
What was the quote?
It was this: "Your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development because success is something you attract by the person you become."
That hits differently than just work harder.
Totally. It immediately shattered Elrod's limiting belief that he just had to grind more in his existing state. He realized, oh, I have to actually become the person who is capable of handling level 10 success if I ever want to attract level 10 results.
Okay, that makes perfect sense philosophically. But then comes the practical challenge, right?
Yeah.
Where do you find the time to become that person?
That-
Most people feel like they're already drowning in demands, work, family commitments. Finding an extra hour in the middle of a chaotic day feels, well, almost impossible.
And that was Elrod's realization, too. He looked at his day, and the only segment he felt he could truly control, the only time he could guarantee uninterrupted solitude, was the morning, before the chaos started.
So even though he apparently hated mornings,
Hated them, he reluctantly committed to waking up at 5 a.m. His initial goal wasn't even that lofty, just commit 60 minutes to 6 specific personal development activities he'd researched.
and the results that followed really validated that commitment, didn't they?
Completely. That reluctant, deliberate hour became his miracle morning. He describes going from deeply depressed and buried in debt to achieving financial security and genuine enthusiasm for life in less than 2 months.
Less than 2 months. Wow.
Yeah, the speed of that turnaround speaks directly to the potency he claims these morning practices have. Hashtag tag 2, who's it for?
Okay, so given that origin story coming out of desperation, you might assume this book is only for people in a crisis situation. Right. But the audience description in the book is actually incredibly broad. Who does Hal Elrod really intend this system for?
He's pretty clear that this is for basically anyone who has that innate, maybe sometimes buried desire for continuous growth and improvement. Your current status doesn't really matter. You could be struggling profoundly, or you could be, succeeding at the highest level already.
Interesting.
If you feel there's more potential locked inside you, he argues the system is relevant.
Okay, let's break that down. Let's consider the two extremes. First, the high achiever. This is someone who's maybe professionally crushing it, growing their business, increasing income.
Right.
So if they're already successful, why would they need to completely overhaul their routine? Isn't their current routine kind of proof that it works?
That's a really great question, and it touches on something important. The often hidden cost of high performance, which is usually balance.
Oh,
The high achiever often uses the miracle morning, not necessarily to make more money, but to find that next level of success, which tends to be deeper fulfillment and balance in areas they've likely neglected while chasing those career goals.
like what kind of areas?
Think health, relationships, maybe spirituality, or even just personal downtime. They might be successful on paper, but they could be burnt out, feeling isolated, or physically depleted. This system provides the structure to reinvest in those parts of their life that external success often sacrifices.
Got it. Then you have the flip side, the struggler. The person facing immediate acute adversity, mental exhaustion, emotional trauma, major financial headaches, relationship breakdowns.
Yeah, for the struggler, the book is really designed to provide rapid momentum. When your world feels like it's falling apart, you need tools that can yield fast breakthroughs. By focusing on personal development first thing in the morning, they're immediately trying to reset their psychological state, moving from that defensive, reactive survival mode to a proactive growth mode. It's about building internal resilience before the external challenges of the day can derail them.
Okay, that makes sense. But maybe the most crucial segment he addresses, because it's probably the largest group, is the snoozeaholic. Let's be honest, most of us who aren't naturally early risers hear 5 a.m. and instantly just hit the mental snooze button.
He totally gets that skepticism, which is why the book actually spends a good amount of time trying to dismantle the myth that you are inherently not a morning person.
Right, that is a fixed trait.
Exactly. This system promises to make waking up not just tolerable, but potentially easy and even enjoyable, even for the most committed night owl. The result of the routine that increased energy, motivation, mental clarity, that's what's supposed to make it sustainable.
He makes pretty bold promise about it too, doesn't he?
He does. He promises that instead of dreading the alarm clock, you can actually train yourself to wake up with the excitement and anticipation, his words, of Christmas morning.
That's a compelling promise, I have to admit.
It is.
Okay, and finally, this system targets the person trapped in what he calls the 95% reality.
Yes, this really speaks to the grand societal challenge he perceives. It's for the person who senses, maybe deep down, that they're settling for less than they're capable of achieving.
Just kind of average.
Average, or maybe just good when they feel extraordinary as possible. The miracle morning is positioned as an invitation to actively cross that line, to deliberately join the 5% of society who he claims achieve financial freedom, vibrant health, genuine fulfillment.
So it's about rejecting that passive acceptance of good enough.
Exactly. And deliberately choosing to define and create an extraordinary life. Hashtag tag 3, key takeaways.
All right, let's dig into the key takeaways. Our first one really expands on that foundational philosophy from Jim Rohn we mentioned earlier.
Right, the idea that success is attracted by the person you become.
He calls this the success equation.
Yeah. We all tend to visualize, a level 10 life, perfect health, deep happiness, significant financial success, whatever level 10 means to you.
Sure.
But if we fail to dedicate actual time to elevate our internal personal development level, which is really the engine driving our decisions and performance, maybe we're only operating at a level 3 or 4 internally.
And the results match the internal level.
That's the argument. The math is simple. Level 4 development will likely only attract level 4 results. Life consistently feels like a struggle because that gap between who we are currently and who we need to be to achieve those level 10 goals is just too wide.
And what really drives this point home is the sobering data presented in that 95% reality check section.
Yeah.
It's easy to dismiss these ideas. It's just, motivational fluff.
Right.
But the statistics he quotes paint a pretty serious picture of widespread underachievement or struggle.
They really do. The book points out that 95% of society is estimated to settle for less than they truly desire across various areas of life. You can look at the financial data specifically. If you track 100 people over a 40-year career until retirement age, the stats suggest only 1 ends up wealthy, maybe 4 are financially secure.
And the other 95.
Are financially struggling or still working simply because they have to, not because they want to. That's a stark reality for the vast majority.
And this mediocrity isn't just a balance sheet issue, is it? He argues it permeates our physical and emotional well-being, too.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the physical dimension. Widespread issues with obesity, chronic fatigue, which leads to this massive reliance on external stimulants.
Coffee, energy drinks.
Exactly, just to maintain baseline functionality. We're essentially trying to buy energy instead of generating it naturally from within.
And relational.
High rates of divorce, he points to the statistic of roughly 1 in 2 marriages failing. Mentally and emotionally, there's a pervasive reliance in society on prescription drugs just to manage anxiety and depression, instead of perhaps developing the internal mechanisms for resilience and peace.
So why does Elrod connect all these seemingly disparate societal failures, debt, divorce, reliance on medication, back to a lack of dedicated personal development time?
Because he sees personal development as the proactive strategy that ideally eliminates the need for all those reactive coping mechanisms.
Okay.
If you spend time daily strengthening your mind, both intellectually and emotionally, you're theoretically less prone to anxiety, less reliant on external fixes. If you spend time daily on your physical self, you naturally have more energy. The lack of proactive self-improvement creates this kind of vacuum, right? And it gets filled by convenience, distraction, and eventually mediocrity settles in.
So the solution isn't just about fixing the outcome like getting out of debt. It's more about an identity shift.
Yes.
Summarized by his call to draw your line in the sand.
It's a powerful metaphor for a profound commitment. It requires the listener, you, to decide unequivocally today that mediocrity is no longer an acceptable option for your life. This possibility of just living an average life exists for everyone, doesn't matter where you start. But extraordinary success, he argues, is simply the cumulative result of choosing to learn, grow, and improve just a tiny bit better each day than you were the day before.
So that internal decision, that conscious refusal to settle.
That's the absolute prerequisite. Without that, the miracle morning practices likely won't stick.
Okay, so once we make that commitment, that internal decision, the book then tackles the specific psychological traps that tend to keep us stuck.
Right, the things that sabotage our best intentions.
First one's called rearview mirror syndrome, or RMS. That's a great metaphor.
It really is. And RMS is crippling because our subconscious mind operates largely on autopilot, right? It bases our present potential almost entirely on our perceived past limitations.
So if you failed at something last month,
or if you had some negative identity marker assigned to you years ago, maybe a teacher said you weren't good at math, or you believe you're just not disciplined, the subconscious just replays that script endlessly. You start filtering new opportunities through those old failures.
And Hal himself experienced this very deeply with his brain injury, didn't he?
He did. He talks about constantly reinforcing the belief that he had a horrible memory after the accident. And that belief limited his confidence in professional settings, personal interactions, everything.
And the scary part is how automatic it is.
Totally. Research backs this up. Apparently, something like 95% of the thoughts we have today are identical to the thoughts we had yesterday.
95%.
It's our brain conserving energy, essentially running familiar programs, but it traps us in a loop. If yesterday's thoughts were limiting or negative, well, today's thoughts are just going to reinforce those same limits.
So if the past is effectively holding us hostage subconsciously, the solution has to be really intentional, almost aggressive, positive self-talk.
Exactly. The solution is consciously choosing and repeating empowering beliefs. The core one being, my past does not equal my future. This means actively using affirmations, which we'll get into more detail on with the SAVERS, to inject new, positive, powerful beliefs over and over again.
Even if they feel untrue at first.
Especially if they feel untrue at first. The consistent repetition is what begins to reprogram the subconscious, pushing those negative memories in the rearview mirror further and further away.
Okay, the next trap is maybe the most insidious one in daily life. Isolating incidents. This is that mistake of assuming that one small lapse in discipline, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
We all do it, right? We tell ourselves, oh, it's just one hit of the snooze button, or it's just one skipped workout. I'll definitely make it up tomorrow.
Yeah, I deserve a break.
We treat these moments as if they're totally isolated events with no real consequence. But the book argues, quite forcefully, that every choice, no matter how small, is actually shaping your identity. When you choose the easy path over the right path, even in tiny ways, you are literally programming your subconscious toward laxity and indiscipline.
And the cumulative weight of all those tiny choices eventually drags you down.
Absolutely. There's a universal principle here, often attributed to T. Harv Ekihar. How you do anything is how you do everything. If you lack discipline in managing your time first thing in the morning, that pattern of indiscipline will likely seep into your work habits, your financial choices, maybe even your diet or relationships. You build a pattern of behavior, good or bad.
So the very first test of commitment every single day is literally the alarm clock itself.
It's the first battleground. Getting out of bed when you intend to instantly reinforces discipline and self-respect. Peter Voog, a successful entrepreneur, notes that discipline creates lifestyle. Mastering that very first moment sets the tone for mastering the rest of your day. It replaces the ingrained habit of seeking ease with the empowering habit of proactive action.
Okay, powerful stuff. Finally, under causes of failure, we need to talk about the lack of purpose.
Yes.
This is what keeps so many people just sort of surviving rather than truly thriving.
It's huge. Most people, if you ask them point blank, really struggle to articulate their why, their driving purpose in life.
You're more focused on just getting through the day.
Exactly. Focused on external pressures, putting out fires, maybe seeking short-term pleasures. When you lack a really compelling purpose, any obstacle can seem insurmountable. The path of least resistance becomes incredibly attractive. You end up being motivated primarily by avoiding pain, rather than actively moving toward a compelling vision.
And Hal Elrod's personal turnaround, that dramatic shift after his second rock bottom, linked directly to finding purpose, right?
Absolutely. When he was on the verge of quitting his sales career due to burnout and debt, he made a very conscious decision about his purpose, specifically for the next year.
I love it.
It was twofold. First, commit fully to becoming the person he needed to be to create the success he wanted. And second, equally important, commit to selflessly adding value to the lives of others, his clients, his colleagues. By shifting his focus away from his own desperation and towards serving others with that improved self, his performance just skyrocketed.
And the numbers showed it.
Yeah, a 94% increase in sales over his previous best year ever. The point he makes is clear. When your purpose is bigger than your problems tend to shrink in significance.
That seems like such an enormous task, though. How does an average person listening right now, maybe feeling overwhelmed, create a compelling life purpose before 5 a.m.? Does it have to be world-changing?
Not at all. That's a common misconception. It doesn't have to be some grand universal declaration. It can be small and simple, but deeply meaningful to you. It could be committing to be a more present and engaged parent today, or to bring positivity to every interaction I have at work, or to learn one new thing that improves my health.
So the key is alignment.
Exactly. Your purpose acts like a compass. It helps align your thoughts, your words, and your actions daily. When you have that alignment, you stop wasting precious energy on conflicting intentions or distractions. Problems naturally become less daunting because you have a clear direction. And this miracle morning routine is designed to be the time where you reconnect with and reaffirm that purpose every single day.
Okay, let's get into the actual mechanics then. The Life SAVERS. These are the 6 specific activities that make up the Miracle Morning practice.
Right, this is the core engine of the transformation he promises.
And these practices are designed to systematically develop what he calls the PIES components of our inner world.
PIES, standing for physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. The idea is that by developing these inner components, our outer life situation naturally improves.
It's the framework.
It is. It ensures you're developing a holistic, integrated identity. Because if you only focus, say, on the intellectual, just reading and learning, you might neglect the physical, your health, and eventually burn out. SAVERS aims for balance across all 4.
All right, let's break them down, starting with the first letter, S. Hashtag S is for silence, spiritual and emotional development. S is for silence. Now, this seems almost counterintuitive to a fast-paced productivity routine, doesn't it? Silence.
It does initially, but purposeful silence is presented as the essential first step to detox from the constant noise and rush of the modern world.
We live in such noisy, fast-paced lives.
Incredibly so, and that leads to chronic stress, mental clutter, a lack of clarity. Purposeful silence is positioned as the antidote.
How does one do silence?
It can manifest in several ways. Meditation is a common one, prayer for those who practice it, quiet reflection, focus, deep breathing exercises, or even just spending a few minutes in silent gratitude. The goal is simply to quiet the internal mental chatter.
Okay, and there's a crucial instruction here about where you do this, right? What you don't do.
Yes, absolutely non-negotiable according to Hal. You must not stay in the bedroom.
Why is that so important?
Primarily because the brain strongly associates the bedroom environment with sleep. Trying to practice silence there, especially early in the morning, is basically an invitation to fall back asleep. You need to physically move to a different location, a couch, a specific chair, maybe even the kitchen table, to signal clearly to your mind that this time is intentional and focused, not an extension of sleep.
Makes sense. What's a simple application for a beginner? Meditation can sound daunting for some people.
Totally. The book suggests starting with very simple, focused breathing exercises, which are accessible to absolutely everyone. You could try pacing your breath. Inhale slowly for, say, 3 seconds. Hold gently for 3 seconds, and then exhale slowly for 3 seconds, just focusing entirely on the breath.
And the focus.
He suggests focusing on inhaling peace, calm, or whatever positive state you want, and exhaling stress, worry, or negativity.
And the benefits are supposed to be pretty quick.
Almost immediate, yeah. Things like a lower heart rate, potential positive changes in metabolism and blood pressure over time, enhanced focus for the tasks ahead, and just a temporary, much-needed break from the day's looming problems before they hit you. This practice directly develops your spiritual sense of connection and peace and your emotional resilience. Hashtag A is for affirmations, intellectual and emotional development.
Okay, next up in SAVERS is A for affirmations. This is where we get into proactively designing our mindset, right? Combating that negative self-talk.
Exactly. And he quotes a stat that something like 80% of women report having self-deprecating thoughts about themselves regularly, and men aren't immune either.
It's pervasive.
It really is. Affirmations are crucial because our subconscious mind is always listening, always recording. If we continually feed it messages that we're not good enough, or we're unlucky, or things never work out for us, well, our performance in reality will tend to reflect that belief.
So affirmations are about choosing different messages.
Choosing empowering self-talk to consciously replace those deeply ingrained limiting beliefs. Like when Hal Elrod himself decided to stop saying, "I have a horrible memory," and started affirming that his memory was improving daily. Or Muhammad Ali famously affirming, "I am the greatest," long before he proved it.
But just repeating a positive phrase isn't necessarily enough, is it? I think many people try this and it feels hollow.
That's a key point. The book provides 5 specific steps to create affirmations that are actually effective, not just wishful thinking.
Okay, can you walk us through those 5 steps?
Absolutely. The effectiveness really hinges on specificity and genuine emotion. Step 1. State clearly what you really want. This connects to your level 10 vision for different areas of life. Be clear, precise, and vivid. Don't just say, "I want more money." Be specific. "I am joyfully earning $6 per month by date," or "I am enjoying vibrant health and energy at my ideal weight of Y pounds."
Okay, specific outcome.
Step 2. State why you want it. This is critical because it provides the emotional fuel, the motivation. If the why isn't compelling, if it doesn't align with your core values or purpose, the affirmation will likely crumble when you face resistance or setbacks. Why is this goal deeply important to you?
The motivation piece. Got it.
Step 3. State who you are committed to being to achieve it. This links back to the success equation. Success is attracted by who you become. You need to affirm the traits, the identity of the person capable of achieving that goal. I am a focused, disciplined, and confident leader, or I am a patient and loving partner.
Identity first.
Step 4. State what you are committed to doing to make it happen. This is where the rubber meets the road. It transforms the affirmation from a wish into an actionable plan. These must be specific, measurable actions.
Like what?
For a salesperson, it might be, I am committed to making 20 high-quality prospecting calls with enthusiasm every morning between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. For health, I am committed to joyfully completing my 30-minute workout 5 days per week. Specific actions.
Actions, not just wishes.
Step 5. Add inspirational quotes or philosophies. This is about reinforcing your new mindset with wisdom from others. Integrate powerful quotes or philosophies from mentors, books, or figures you admire that align with your goals, like maybe Tim Ferriss's advice on focusing singularly on one task.
That distinction between step 3, who you are, and step 4, what you do, feels really important. It grounds the whole thing.
It really does. It connects the being with the doing.
Yeah.
And the absolute crucial element for making all 5 steps work is twofold: consistency and emotion.
Powerful.
You must read or recite these affirmations daily, ideally aloud. And you have to infuse them with authentic, potent emotion. Feel the excitement of achieving the goal. Feel the pride in being that person. Feel the determination in doing the actions.
Just repeating them robotically won't cut it?
Minimal impact if you do that. It's the daily emotional repetition that truly begins to reprogram your subconscious beliefs and expectations. This practice powerfully develops both your intellectual understanding of what's required and your emotional drive to achieve it. #V is for visualization, intellectual and emotional development.
All right, moving on to V visualization, also known as mental rehearsal. This often feels like something only elite athletes or performers do. How does it apply to everyday life for the rest of us?
It applies powerfully because it engages the same part of your brain, the subconscious, that affirmations target, but visually. Visualization is essentially closing your eyes, taking some deep breaths to relax, and then mentally rehearsing not just the desired outcome, but crucially, the specific behaviors needed to achieve it. And you visualize yourself performing those behaviors with ease, confidence, and even enjoyment.
So it's definitely not just daydreaming about winning the lottery or magically having things appear.
Absolutely not. It's structured mental practice. Think of Tiger Woods, who famously visualized every single shot before he took it, or Jack Nicklaus stating he never hit a shot, not even in practice, until he had it clear in his mind's eye first.
So for an average person, what would that look like?
You could mentally rehearse your ideal morning. Waking up energized the moment the alarm goes off, using that snooze-proof strategy we'll talk about. Feeling good during your SAVERS, confidently making those 20 prospecting calls you affirmed, having a productive and positive meeting later in the day, handling a difficult conversation calmly. You see yourself doing it successfully before you actually do it. You're preparing your brain and body for that success.
There's that famous story about Jim Carrey, right? Writing himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, dating it years in the future, and carrying it in his wallet.
Yeah, visualizing earning it. And then, years later, he reportedly received exactly $10 million for his role in Dumb and Dumber.
Whether causal or not, it illustrates the power of holding that vision.
Exactly. That story highlights the core function of visualization as presented in the book. It works to create an irresistible pull toward your desired future. See, most people are unconsciously being pulled backward by their limiting past experiences, that RMS. Visualization flips the script. It makes your future compelling, exciting, limitless, the dominant psychological force pulling you forward.
So it reinforces the what you do from the affirmations.
Precisely. It makes those commitments feel more real, more achievable. This practice develops both your intellectual clarity on the path forward and boosts your emotional confidence and motivation to walk it. #E is for exercise, physical development.
Okay, E is for exercise. This seems more straightforward, maybe, but why is it absolutely non-negotiable that some form of physical activity is part of this primarily mental and emotional transformation routine?
Because the body and mind are fundamentally, inextricably linked. You simply cannot maximize your mental potential if you're feeling physically drained, sluggish, or unhealthy. Energy is the fuel for success in any area.
But does it have to be, like, a grueling hour-long workout at 5:30 a.m.? That sounds like a barrier for many.
No, and that's the good news. Elrod emphasizes the concept of a minimum effective dose. You don't need a 2-hour session at the gym before dawn. He suggests committing to perhaps just 6 to 10 minutes of focused movement.
Just 6 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
What kind of exercise gives the biggest bang for the buck in that short time?
Really, anything that gets your heart rate up and blood flowing relatively quickly. Think bodyweight exercises like push-ups, sit-ups, or crunches, jumping jacks, squats, maybe some burpees if you're feeling ambitious, even a brisk walk around the block or some yoga stretches.
The goal is just movement and increased circulation.
Yes. This brief burst of activity does several key things physiologically. It releases endorphins, those natural mood boosters, helps reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, and sends a powerful shot of oxygenated blood to the brain, literally waking it up.
So if the silence and visualization parts work on clearing the mental fog, exercises like flipping the physical power switch on for the day.
That's a great way to put it. It instantly helps move you from that groggy, lethargic morning state to feeling more fully energized and alert. It's a huge driver for immediate productivity and focus. By incorporating even just a few minutes of exercise, you are immediately addressing the crucial physical component of your PIES framework, ensuring that fatigue isn't the primary limiting factor holding you back right from the start of your day. #### R is for reading. Intellectual development.
All right, next up is R for reading. Again, this might seem obvious for personal development, but why is it specifically prioritized as one of the core 6 practices during the Miracle Morning?
Reading is framed as the ultimate shortcut to acquiring knowledge and leveling up your mindset. It's about quickly gaining access to the strategies, insights, and emotional intelligence that took experts years, sometimes decades, to figure out and compile.
You're essentially downloading expertise.
Exactly. Why reinvent the wheel when you can learn directly from the best minds in any field? And again, the commitment level proposed is designed to be accessible. Elrod suggests committing to reading just 10 pages a day.
10 pages a day. That sounds incredibly manageable, even on busy days. But what's the real long-term impact of that seemingly small commitment?
The compounding effect is where the magic happens. 10 pages a day might not sound like much, but do the math. That's 3,650 pages read in a year.
Which translates to?
Roughly 18 to 24 average-sized nonfiction books annually. Imagine consciously consuming the core wisdom from, say, the best 20 books on sales or leadership or healthy relationships or financial management every single year.
That level of consistent intellectual growth would be transformative over time.
Absolutely. It ensures you are constantly upgrading your skills, challenging your assumptions, learning new strategies, and refining your mindset based on proven principles.
So you're essentially using that first focus part of the day to receive direct mentorship from some of the greatest thinkers and achievers who ever lived, all through the pages of their books.
That's the idea. It goes back to attracting success by becoming the person who possesses the necessary knowledge, wisdom, and perspective. If you consistently read about managing money effectively, you naturally become a better financial manager. If you read about improving communication, you become a better communicator. This practice is almost entirely dedicated to deliberately upgrading the intellectual component of your inner world, equipping you with the mental tools needed for success. #S is for scribing, journaling, and emotional development.
And finally, the last S in SAVERS stands for scribing, which is essentially journaling.
Yes, scribing is just his term for the simple act of writing or journaling. This is often the practice that people are most tempted to skip, maybe because it feels less active than exercise or reading.
Yeah, I can see that. But you think it's critical.
I think Elrod makes a strong case that it's critical, especially for emotional processing and idea capture. Scribing serves multiple powerful functions, even if you only do it for 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, like what function?
First, it acts as a mental download or capture tool. It allows you to immediately jot down ideas that might have sparked during your silence or reading time. You can capture key lessons learned, insights, breakthroughs, and specific action items you want to implement that day.
So good ideas don't just float away and get forgotten by 9 a.m.
Precisely. It prevents insight amnesia. But beyond idea capture, there's a crucial emotional component.
Which is?
Scribing acts as an essential emotional vent and clarifier. You can write down your stressors, your worries, your frustrations, your anxieties, literally moving them from the chaotic, often overwhelming space inside your head onto the objective space of paper.
Getting it out helps process it.
Immensely. Just the act of articulating worries can often diminish their power and give you objectivity and clarity on how to handle them. It's also the place where you can track your progress on goals, celebrate small wins from the previous day, which builds momentum, and consciously reinforce feelings of gratitude.
So it functions as a kind of highly personalized, immediate feedback loop on your internal state and progress.
That's a perfect way to put it. By writing down specifically what you are grateful for each morning, you consciously shift your focus from lack or problems to abundance and blessings. By writing down your commitment to your affirmations and purpose again, you reinforce them neurologically through the physical act of writing. Scribing is that dedicated time to process, reflect, clarify, and commit. It directly serves the emotional component of PIES, helps track the development across all areas, and integrates the learning from the other practices.
Okay, so just to quickly recap that full SAVRS framework, we use silence for spiritual emotional calm, affirmations for intellectual emotional programming, visualization for intellectual emotional rehearsal, exercise for physical energy, reading for intellectual growth, and scribing for emotional processing and idea capture.
Exactly. It really is designed as a comprehensive system to touch every key base of personal development first thing in the morning. Hashtag check 4. Closing thoughts.
We've covered a lot of ground, the philosophy, the why, the who, and the how with SAVERS. Let's bring it back to the core commitment here.
Yeah, the central premise remains. The quality of your life is largely determined by the quality of the person you are becoming day by day.
And this transformation, this becoming, is achieved most effectively, according to Elrod, during that purposeful, focused, uninterrupted time you carve out for yourself each morning.
But, and this is a big but, we have to address the single most common failure point for any morning routine.
Which is?
That first moment the alarm clock rings. If you fail to get out of bed, if you hit snooze, you fail the entire routine before it even starts.
Right. All the planning goes out the window.
Exactly. So the book provides a really practical, powerful 5-step snooze-proof strategy. It's designed specifically to instantly increase your wake-up motivation level, or WUML, as he calls it.
Okay, WUML, let's break down the 5 steps. What's step 1?
Step 1, crucially, happens the night before. Set your intentions. He argues your very first thought in the morning is often the last thought you had before falling asleep. So if you consciously decide, and maybe even affirm the night before, I'm excited to wake up tomorrow at 5 a.m. to start my miracle morning and invest in myself, you create a positive expectation that immediately raises your potential WML when the alarm goes off.
Priming the pump the night before. Okay, step 2.
Step 2 is purely about physical necessity. Move your alarm clock across the room.
Ah, the classic.
It's classic for a reason. It completely eliminates the chance of hitting snooze while half asleep. You are physically faced to get out of bed to turn it off. And that small bit of physical motion is critical. Motion creates energy. It moves you from maybe a WML 1, 0 motivation, stay in bed, to maybe a WML 2 or 3 just by standing up.
Okay, out of bed. Step 3.
Go straight to the bathroom and brush your teeth. It's a small, easy, almost mindless habit for most people, but doing it immediately signals clearly to your body and mind that the sleeping process is officially over and the day is beginning. It's a simple pattern interrupt.
Step 4.
Step 4 addresses a huge, often overlooked killer of morning energy: dehydration.
Right, after sleeping for hours.
Exactly. After 6, 7, 8 hours without water, everyone wakes up at least mildly dehydrated. And dehydration is a key physiological contributor to feelings of fatigue and brain fog. So step 4 is drink a full, tall glass of water immediately upon waking or right after brushing your teeth. This helps rehydrate your body, re-energize your cells, wake up your digestive system, and bumps your WML up further.
Simple, but makes sense. And the final step, step 5.
Get dressed in your workout clothes or hop in the shower. Changing out of pajamas into clothes signifies readiness for action. By executing these 5 simple, relatively low-effort steps consecutively.
You basically stack the deck in your favor before you even need willpower.
Precisely. You've likely moved your WML from a miserable 1 or 2 all the way up to a 7 or 8 before you even need to engage the SAVERS routine itself. You've eliminated the need for brute force discipline in that vulnerable first few minutes and relied instead on a sequence of small, easy, consecutive acts of self-mastery.
That makes overcoming the initial inertia much more achievable.
Definitely. And the book's overall promise remains incredibly compelling. This simple shift, committing to just one focused hour, more or less, of structured personal development before your official day even starts this is presented as the key to unlocking truly extraordinary benefits. Things like improved health and energy, potentially increased income, significantly less stress, a profound clarity of purpose and direction.
You're invited, essentially, to trade the grogginess and lethargy of hitting the snooze button.
For potentially feeling that joyous anticipation he describes, like Christmas morning, looking forward to starting your day with purpose every single day.
It suggests that the path to living that extraordinary life, characterized by more happiness, success, prosperity than maybe you've experienced before, is often much simpler than we tend to make it out to be.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily require massive, complex changes overnight. It just requires that daily, consistent, deliberate, and structured investment in becoming the best version of yourself, starting first thing.
Which leads to the final thought maybe for you listening to consider today.
If the quality of your life truly does parallel your level of personal development, as Jim Rohn suggested, what is just one of those SAVERS activities, silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, or scribing, that you could realistically commit to starting tomorrow, maybe for just 6 minutes? What's one small step you could take to immediately increase your own developmental level and begin closing that gap between the person you are today and the truly extraordinary person you are capable of being?
That's today's breakdown. While this discussion cannot replace the book's full text, it can offer a glimpse into its teachings. Hope you found this discussion helpful, and I look forward to sharing more. Let me know what book next you want to discuss.